Yes! Welcome into Sportsbit. Betting Insight today, Paulie and Teddy. Weekend preview edition. Huge show coming up. AFC Championship Preview. We have the Warriors and Rockets on ESPN Friday night. And we have Saturday night on ABC, the Spurs and the Cavs. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. Let's get it going. Point spread hijinks in the association. Bad beat, tough beat. Spurs and the Nuggets. This one, Spurs closed 13. Gasol got hurt in warm-ups, and it came down to a foul late.
It sure did. And, of course, the markets didn't know that Gasol got hurt in warm-ups. We'll talk about that later in the show. The markets didn't know that it happened at all. So San Antonio took money. They closed minus 13. They're up 11. And then Dwayne Dedmon with the layup and one on the final possession. Some teams will run out the clock there, just take the 24-second violation. Dedmon, a 65% career free throw shooter, hits the free throw. San Antonio wins by 14, laying 13. That's not the only game in the association last night where there were point spread hijinks near the finish.
Another over for the Nuggets as well. The Wizards. How does this happen against the Knicks? They can't guard anybody. They had 100 points at the end of 3. They almost lose the game. Why? They scored 13 points total in the fourth. They had 9 points in the first 11 minutes and 30 seconds of the fourth quarter. How?
Well, first of all, the Wizards still covered the spread. The line never got higher than Washington minus 2.5. It closed minus 1 or 1.5 in most locations. So even though there was point spread hijinks, the Wizards hung on and still got the money. But, what happened in the fourth quarter for Washington? Simple. Second night of back-to-backs, teams run out of energy. It happens all the time. And plus, the Wizards bench on the floor to start the fourth quarter. And their bench, that's what's been holding them back. You know, the reason that we're talking about Cleveland and then Toronto and Boston and then everybody else is because Washington hasn't made it to Toronto and Boston range because the bench hasn't been as good. We've shown you the chart like this before. We've shown you this graph before. Look at the Wizards plus minus with John Wall on the floor. The 37 minutes he was in, they were plus 11. The 11 minutes he was out, they were minus 8. John Wall is playing at a superstar level. And when he's not on the floor, teams are making runs on Washington.
Yep. Also in Miami against the Mavs, some point spread drama as well. There was a foul as Dirk shot a 3. There was another 3 late, and it lands. Did it land 2?
No, it landed 4
landed
because
4,
Dirk
okay.
Dirk hit the 3 in the closing seconds to cut it to 2.
They fouled. Okay, yes.
And they fouled, and then Miami hit the 2 free throws. And that was another game where the point spread bounced around. It was sitting, 1.5, 2, 2.5 all day. A 2-point result would have been bad for the house. The 2 late free throws avoided the point spread hijinks for the sportsbooks. They made out all right and didn't get middled on that one.
Bad bet in college basketball. Clemson on the road to take on Louisville. They bet Clemson down to 5, and this thing got out of hand. How about Louisville has issues scoring? This was a surprise.
Yeah, the markets were betting on the Cardinals to struggle in their first game without the injured point guard Quentin Snyder. And instead, they played arguably their best, one of their best offensive games of the season, and there were no issues whatsoever without Snyder on the floor. And, of course, the Tigers led early. They led 21-12 at the 10-minute mark of the first half, and then Pitino's kids went on a run, as they do. They led by double digits at halftime, cruised down the stretch.
One of the biggest upsets ever and one of the dumbest bets. This is a bridge jumper. Guy should have his head examined. David Purdom, ESPN Chalk, he tweeted, a bettor at William Hill put $8,500 on Djokovic to beat Dennis Istomin in the second round of the Australian Open. He was minus $8,500. He would have made, that's correct. He bet $8,500 to win $100. They didn't take any bets on Istomin. He shocks the world. Djokovic out in the second round. What is this guy doing?
See, I'm going to disagree with you there, okay?
What?
To say it's insane and the guy's an idiot.
Yeah.
No. What happens when you're betting big chalk on the money line, and this is something that wise guys will do, you're going to win 20 in a row, you're going to win 30 in a row, you're going to win 40 in a row, you're going to lose one, it's going to take away all those profits. This one where he's betting $8,500 to win 100, obviously it's brutal. But as part of a long-term strategy, it's not unthinkable. It's not ridiculous. It's not bridge jumper, in my opinion. Obviously, for this one better, he's ready to jump off a bridge today.
Come on, you're better than that, Teddy. You do it to
win
win
$1,000.
I'm saying that it happens. You don't bet $8,500 to win 100. That's stupid.
Well, it's stupid unless the guys, the real odds are more like 150 to 1 or 200 to 1 or 300 to 1. Wherever the edge is, Paulie, the whole concept that we bring up on Sportsbit again and again, little edges over time produce profits. So if they should have been, even if he lost, if he should have been 200 to 1 and you're only laying 85 to 1, it's a bet that's worth making. It's a bet a wise guy won't throw away.
Yeah, put $100 on a hand of blackjack. You're better off in that situation. Crazy stuff can happen. A huge upset there in tennis. Is there hope for legalized sports betting with the New Jersey case?
Well, okay, and we've been I've been meaning to talk about this all week, and we haven't had time on any show. I wanted to talk about it on Friday's show because there was a no decision earlier in the week when the U.S. Supreme Court delayed a ruling on whether they're going to take up the state's challenge to the federal ban. Of course, New Jersey, this has been a case that's been ongoing for the last 5 years. They're challenging the 1992 PAPSA law that restricts sports betting to 4 states in the U.S. What is it, Nevada, Oregon, Delaware? I don't even know what that was. Montana, the 4th one, I believe. But that's the only states where it's allowed. Now, what we've seen is other states joining into New Jersey's effort. And this is new and this is different. Mississippi, West Virginia, Arizona, Louisiana, Wisconsin, all joining Jersey. Michigan is talking about legalizing sports betting. That I read something on that today. Donald Trump has said in an interview with Fox Sports 1 that he wouldn't oppose sports betting or daily fantasy sports being legal, quote, because it's happening anyway. So there's momentum now. There's hope now in a way there hasn't been for the better part of the last decade. But I'll be honest with you, Paulie. Number one, still a long shot, still fighting an uphill battle. And number two, be careful what you wish for.
Why are we still fighting an uphill battle? If the state wants to do it, I mean, that's artifacts and relics going back to that PASPA law.
This is why, because a trial judge and a federal appeals court have already ruled against New Jersey. Okay, so now it's going to take a court decision to overturn a previous court decision, as opposed to a court decision making the decision in the first place. You understand the difference? It's like replay. It's like replay in the NFL, where they say if they can't determine it, the ruling on the field stands as called. For this, they have to overturn a decision as opposed to just getting a decision. But the key factor here is be careful what you wish for. I know we all want legal sports betting. I know it sounds like a great thing on paper. But remember, the reason that legal sports betting works in Nevada on single event games is because the state basically said, we don't care about the tax dollars. They take 1/4%. That's the tax that the sports books pay here in Nevada. And that's what allows 11-10 wagering. Some of the talk I've heard, 10% taxes, 15% taxes, 20% taxes. Guess what? 11-10 doesn't work when the state is taking out those type of numbers. And if you want to see what's happening in blackjack, where you don't, the casinos on the strip now, where you're getting 6-5 instead of 3-2, you say, oh, no big deal. Well, in sports betting, the danger is that we would go to 6-5 instead of 11-10. That allows more money to go to the sports books. It allows more money to go to the states. And it basically would take wise guys out of the equation. I don't know if people can make a living betting on sports if it goes to 6-5. So be careful what you wish for. It sounds great. I'm with you in theory. But if it ends up changing the way that we bet on sports as a result of legalization, it's going to be more bad than good.
As we talk about this, and then yesterday, the Raiders filed for relocation to come to Las Vegas. They get 24 votes in March. It'll be official. Las Vegas will have an NFL team. I don't know it's crazy what's going on. Crazy.
It's awesome. Vegas was
awesome,
a pariah. Yeah. You know, the only event we had the first decade I lived in town, we had an all-star game for the NBA. And you remember what insanity that was.
A horror show.
They're never holding another all-star game in this town.
I was there. It was a horror show. The traffic, and then people were afraid to come out and gamble. All hell was breaking loose in the casinos.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not like there's been a long history of this building up. It just kind of happened. And Las Vegas is big enough, and attitudes around the country have changed enough that'd be great. I'm all in favor of the Raiders moving to Las Vegas. I'm even willing to put a couple of my tax dollars into the stadium fund to do it.
Up next, AFC Championship game preview. What a game. Steelers and the Patriots. Plus, we get the marquee games in the association with the Rockets and the Warriors and the Spurs and the Cavs. All that coming up on Sportsbit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Go to SBRodds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
Back on Sportsbit, Betting Insight today. Follow us on Twitter at Paulie Howard at Teddy_covers. Here we go. The late game, 3:30 Pacific on CBS. AFC Championship game, Pittsburgh and New England. Pats 6-51 the total. Rain possible. 9 in a row for the Steelers. They're on a great run. You're going against a team that's 14-2 though, and tough to beat at home. Brady-Ben playoff rematch for the first time in 12 years. I'll ask you though, Teddy, are the Patriots fresh or rusty?
Well, they certainly looked rusty last week. At the back end of the season, they had walkovers against the Jets and then a walkover against the Dolphins in the last 2 games. They had a bye week, and then of the 8 playoff teams remaining, heading into last week, the Texans were clearly the weakest. I'm not convinced they were truly a tough competition. So you wonder if they're rusty. They looked rusty last week, and they're certainly not in a position where Pittsburgh, the Steelers, didn't have the bye week, although they took a bye week essentially in week 17, which I think has helped over the last couple of weeks. But the Patriots are fresher, but obviously last week they certainly weren't in midseason form.
Yeah, it's a good defense, and they allowed the fewest points of any in the National Football League. But you look at the quarterbacks they faced, you throw this up, Fitzpatrick twice, Osweiler twice, Taylor, Palmer, Tannehill, Kessler, and Whitehurst when they played the Browns, Dalton, Landry Jones, Russell Wilson, Kaepernick, Goff, Flacco, Simeon, and Matt Moore. Rufus Peabody. You think Patriots, and you think Brady in the offense, but this season, their defense has been almost as important. I think Patricia has done an excellent job turning things around. Remember, they lost at home to Seattle. They were rushing 2 guys on some of those plays.
Well, that's just it, okay? And again, I don't mean to bring up Rufus Peabody and rip him. I like the guy. I met him last year at the Super Contest seminar over at the Westgate. A real good guy. But I put him in the show specifically to talk about the example. Because Rufus Peabody and his Massey Peabody line is classic wise guy stuff, classic advanced metrics. And you're going to see the advanced metrics folks come out and say, look at this Patriots defense, the best defense in the NFL. And that's what Peabody's numbers will say. And look, down the stretch after week 12, they held opponents to 4.7 yards per play, and they were great. Look at the quarterbacks they faced. Let's flash that list again. All right. And I know you say, well, Carson Palmer's pretty good. This wasn't a good year for Carson Palmer. Tannehill was okay. Well, the 2 games that they faced Ryan Tannehill, they faced week 2 when the Dolphins weren't ready yet. They faced in week 17 when Miami was as flat as a pancake.
That was Matt Moore.
Thank you. Very good. Even better. They faced Dalton. It wasn't a good year for Dalton this year. They faced Flacco. Flacco moved the ball up and down the field against them. They faced Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson moved the ball up and down the field against them. And they didn't face a quarterback who was ranked in the top 10 all season long. Roethlisberger, number 11 in passer rating, makes him the single highest rated QB the Pats will have faced all season. So in other words, I'm not convinced that New England's defense is as good as the markets seem to think it is, and as the advanced metric numbers seem to think it is. The Seahawks game threw me for a loop, and it stood out to me when they faced an offense that was struggling but had talent. New England couldn't get stops the way they had against some other teams.
But this is a great spot. I get Belichick off a bad performance in a playoff win. He's going to give them holy hell all week and let them know how bad they were.
Sure. Oh, no argument. And certainly, Mike Tomlin has never figured out a defense for Tom Brady. Look at the numbers. The Patriots, or Brady, the Patriots with Brady behind center, 9-2 against the Steelers. And Brady's numbers, how about this? 26 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Brady versus the Steelers in the Tomlin era, they played 6 times. He's averaged 315 yards per game, 8.8 yards per pass attempt. How about this? 19 touchdowns, 0 picks, a QB rating of 127.5. Tom Brady has owned this defense since Mike Tomlin got there.
Yes, and I really like Mike Lombardi from Fox Sports. I think he does some good work in his history there with the Patriots. He talks about the Steelers with their zone defense, where it's watch the quarterback, where he goes, you go, and that's where you move. Well, you're not playing Alex Smith on Sunday. You're not facing a Joe Flacco. You're going against the best in the business, one of the best, and a guy's torched you. I think Malcolm Mitchell's supposed to be back. Floyd had some issues in the loss to Houston. You're also supposed to get Hogan back as well. Maybe you split Lewis. and wide out, spread them out and throw. And I think that's going to give the Steelers some problems in this one.
Well, for Pittsburgh, in my mind, the whole game comes down, there's a couple of things it's going to come down to, but for Pittsburgh defensively, they have to get pressure on Tom Brady. And you look at the full season numbers for the Steelers defense, a lot of mediocre stuff. Since James Harrison went back into the starting lineup, it's been a different looking defense. And Bud Dupree has been a difference maker when it comes to rushing the passer. The Harrison and Dupree have come on really strong down the stretch. And that's a key matchup, in my opinion. Because remember, this defense was good enough to carry the team to victory on the road last week in a game where the offense didn't produce a single touchdown. So even though we have some questions about Pittsburgh's season-long defensive numbers, and even though Tom Brady isn't Alex Smith, they won a game on the road and the offense didn't score a touchdown. Defense is doing something right. They will need to continue doing something right to beat Tom Brady in New England.
Now, we got to talk about the running back matchup, and I know he was probably undrafted in most leagues. The season that Blount had, 1,100 yards, 16 touchdowns, didn't get a lot of carries last week against the Texans, didn't do much as he was battling the flu all week, and sometimes they give Lewis some carries as well, but he'll be key in this one, ground and pound. And then Belichick, what he does best, he takes away what you do best. Can they contain Le'Veon Bell?
Well, that's the big question. I mean, Le'Veon Bell is the NFL's best running back right now. He's built for January football. He was the difference maker in the game last week. If Pittsburgh's going to win the game, Bell is going to have to probably be the focal point of that offense. But you talk about Blount. I mean, remember, these two teams faced off already once this season. Admittedly, it was a Landry Jones game, but 27-16 Patriots won on the road, and Blount, 24 carries, 127 yards in that ball game. He was a difference maker for the Patriots. And if New England's going to win and cover this game, it's going to be Blount who's running out the clock in the fourth quarter.
Another great matchup, key matchup. Is it going to be Butler against Brown? Will they do single coverage? Will they maybe double him? Can they contain Antonio Brown? And let's be honest, he said it himself. He has become a distraction because of the Facebook Live video. Steelers had to answer about it all week. We'll see if he comes out and delivers, or if he's like Beckham, where Beckham's on the boat. Next thing you know, he can't catch a cold in the loss at Lambeau.
Yeah, and really, when we're talking about one-on-one matchups, the biggest one-on-one has got to be Antonio Brown versus Malcolm Butler. I mean, Brown has been virtually unstoppable this season. Butler, top-notch cover corner, won a Super Bowl for New England based on his playing abilities. So you wonder, and this is not a question that I have the answer to, can Butler hold his own well enough so the Pats can play honest defense and not have to double team? Mm-hmm. Or is it a situation where New England's going to have to change their defensive game plan to contain Antonio Brown? That'll open things up for everybody else.
Maybe it comes down to this, Teddy. Who punches it in the red zone? Who has to settle for field goals?
Yeah, that's huge. I honestly think that'll be the difference ATS in this game. The Patriots scored touchdowns 64% of the time. They were number 8 in the NFL in red zone offense. The Steelers, they go hot and cold. They finished the season at 55%, but last week, 0 for the red zone. Both teams are in the top 8 on defense at holding teams out of the end zone when they get their scoring chances. The team that converts touchdowns and not field goals with those opportunities likely to cover the number in the late game on Sunday.
What do you think? Let's get a lean. Total side, what do you think?
Side-wise, I don't believe in New England. I don't believe in New England. I look at the strength of schedule that says they face the 32nd toughest, the weakest schedule in the NFL, and I say Pittsburgh might be able to give them a game.
They've also struggled ATS in this spot in the last few years too. Patriots, yeah.
Well, let's not forget, the Patriots were the single best point spread team in the NFL this year. And when the books get beat by the same team over and over and over and over again, especially when it's a public team like New England, at this stage of the season, you end up laying a little bit more than you should. And that's another little edge on or towards the Pittsburgh side.
Yep, lean to the under in this one. Check the weather before the game on Sunday. Up next, how about the association? Here's revenge again for the Warriors. They're in Houston to take on the Rockets. We also have the Spurs and the Cavs. And the play of the day. Let's make it 4-1, baby, this week on Sportsbit. Betting Insight today on SBRpicks.com.
That's right, the 8th annual SBR Forum Bash will be held at the breathtaking all-inclusive Hard Rock Hotel in Punta Cana on Super Bowl weekend. Join Natalie Rydstrom and the Odds Couple as they mingle with SBR pros and have fun under the sun. Stay tuned for video coverage of Bash activities, including a $5,000 poker tournament sponsored by uwager.eu. Only on SBR, your sportsbook authority since 1999.
We're back on Sports Pit, Betting It Inside today. Big game breakdown continues. As always, live on sportsbookreview.com. Tonight, ESPN. What a game. Warriors and the Rockets. Warriors 5 on the road. 236.5 the total. Houston was plus 11 on the road. 11-point dogs. One outright in Golden State. 132 to 127 in double OT. That was December 1st. 113 at the end of regulation. Biggest lead. Rockets were up 10. Golden State was up 4. Harden, 29, 15, and 13. But he's only 8 of 23 and had 7 turnovers. Ryan Anderson at 29 points, hit 5 threes. But he's missed the last 2 games with the flu. Very, very important. Because bombs away with this team. They need him. He's questionable tonight.
Yeah, and again, going back to that last meeting between these two teams, Durant didn't have a great game. He only scored 13 points. Draymond Green at 20 and 15, but Curry and Thompson only 13 of 42 from the field combined, just 7 of 26 from a three-point range. Those are numbers you would expect to improve in a second look. And of course, the Warriors stepped up big to challenges this week. You know, we had them versus the Cavs. We had them again versus the Thunder. And we were smiling as much as Durant when he dropped 40 on OKC. Now it's the third straight challenge, but it's no letdown spot. This should be, and the Golden State should be fresh still. They've only played 4 games on their 11-day homestand, and they were all easy wins, so the minutes for the starters stayed low.
Homestand also helped to build some defense and build some chemistry. Look at this. January NBA defense, Clips 1, Philly, and New Orleans 3, and Golden State number 4. Remember, kids, it's points per 100 possessions.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, the Rockets and Harden are going to bring some fire. You know, they bounced back nice from the loss at Miami. Solid home win over Milwaukee on Wednesday. Eric Gordon got into a groove, and when he's hitting, when Gordon and Ariza are hitting, that's a tough team to beat. But there are issues with Houston in terms of fatigue factor. We talk about how the schedule's been easy for Golden State, you know, in terms of being at home, having days off between games. This is the 7th game in 11 nights for Houston. It's going to be 8 and 12 on the Saturday when they travel to Memphis. The Rockets, with Anderson a question mark, a little bit banged up right now, still trying to work Capella into the rotation. We're going to get back to this game when it comes to play of the daytime.
Yeah, I mean, that's you're looking at a back-to-back, and they have to go to Memphis where they already lost. And lost at home to Memphis, too. Give me a break. Saturday, ABC. Spurs on the road to take on the Cavs. 5:30 Pacific. Live odds, sportsbookreview.com. What are we calling this? No line.
Yeah, my powering number at Cleveland 3.5 for this ballgame. For the Cavs right now, only a half point better than the Spurs, giving 3 for the home court. I would be surprised. I think the number's going to come a little bit higher than that, given the issues that San Antonio has had defensively. But I would think 4.5, somewhere in that range for Cleveland, maybe even 5.
Home team won both last year. Cavs rolled 117 to 103, and then in San Antonio, Spurs won by 4. 99-95, they were laying 6, though.
Yeah, I mean, LeBron has faced the Spurs 3 times in the NBA Finals in the Duncan era. This is the first time he's going to face them since Tim Duncan retired. And, of course, I mean, Cleveland finally back-to-back games at home and a chance to get into practice on Wednesday before facing Phoenix. It was their first game back after a 6-game trip, and they played well. You know, gee, you have a chance to practice, you're playing on the floor, it gets better. And, of course, they had no Kevin Love. They rolled, 118 to 103, led by 22, and coasted. But, you know, I've still got issues with Lou and the way he's handling LeBron's minutes, or whether it's LeBron himself calling the shots. You know, he's playing 39 minutes in a game that never got closer than 13 in the entire second half. They were good minutes, 21 points, 15 assists, 9 rebounds, but fourth quarter of that game, LeBron, you're supposed to be sitting and resting up for the next one.
Excellent point. That's one thing that could come back to bite him when we get deep in the playoffs. There's no reason for him to play those big minutes after what he's done the last 6-7 years. We've been telling you about the Spurs. They're all their issues on defense. Back to the drawing board again, Teddy. You mentioned at the top of the show with Gasol getting hurt.
Well, yeah, he got hurt in warm-ups. He suffered a broken left hand in warm-ups. He's going to be out indefinitely. I've heard 6 to 8 weeks, but it's real early on that. But for a team that had significant defensive chemistry issues in recent weeks, the loss of Gasol means, guess what? Now Pop's got to readjust his minutes, readjust his rotations, and get that defense back up to speed. But of course, we talked about it on yesterday's show. 6 straight games as a double-digit favorite. Now this team might relish the challenge, But David Lee got the start versus Denver. 10 points, 16 rebounds in more than 32 minutes of action. I'm not convinced Lee is ready to play those kind of minutes on a nightly basis.
They're going to be a big over team because Lee can't guard you. So they can score.
Kid.
Oh, horrible. So that's something to watch, too, with the Spurs because they're getting it done on offense. And you had all those issues on defense, and now that guy's going to get more minutes? Oh, mercy. All right, money time, play of the day. Let's make it a 4-in-1 week here on Sportsbit. This is going to be our Green Bay Packers. Remember, we hit 6 in a row in this NFL season with Green Bay. Warriors. Let's make it 3 in a row with the Warriors. I don't like how the Rockets are playing. They miss Anderson. See if he goes tonight. But I'm going to lay it with Golden State. Try to make it 3 in a row with the Warriors. Betting number 863. Warriors -5. Revenge mode. We got the Warriors in revenge. Laying the 5 in Houston. Tough spot. Again, I hate the schedule. And they got to go to Memphis on Saturday night. And they lost to Miami, too, on the road. Something not right with the Rockets right now. They'll get it fixed. But I think the Warriors take advantage tonight. Let's give another winner. And as you said earlier in the show, or earlier in the week, this is a team that can maybe rattle off a bunch of covers in a row, Teddy, with that offensive firepower.
Yeah, Golden State right now is a bet-on team. We've cashed twice from already this week. Let's ride the train. Go for that trifecta. Warriors -5, game number 863 for our play of the day.
Thank you. Thanks for being part of the chat. That was a lot of fun. Remember, we do it every Thursday at 8 Pacific. And when we come back Monday, we'll know the Super Bowl matchup, Teddy.
Should be a lot of fun. We'll see you guys after the weekend.